Hello guys, I'm Unblessed Data, and welcome to another review. This time we have Bates Motel Season 1, Episode 8, A Boy and His Dog. So before I get into this episode, just want to let you guys know it will contain spoilers. If you do not want to know what happened, go watch the episode and come back to this video. Alright, let's get right into this review and start off right where we left off from last week's episode. Norman found a dog and, well, it got ran over by a car. Yeah, so he actually brought the dog to Emma's house, and Emma's dad is a taxidermy. He does taxidermy. I don't what's the term for someone that does taxidermy? I don't even know. Anyway, taxidermist. I think that's what it is. But so yeah, Emma's dad is a taxidermist, and basically Norman wants him to taxidermy the dog because he wants to honor it because he doesn't feel right because it died in his care. Blah blah blah. Okay, this is really cool because it's really pointing at some hints and really tying together this Bates Motel and Psycho, because obviously we know from Psycho we know the taxidermy thing. So yeah, it's putting some ties there, and even him saying, like Norman saying, oh, I want to honor the dog by doing taxidermy on it. Like that's even kind of like, it's not like a killer's not gonna, it's not a killer's trait that you do taxidermy, but it obviously points in that direction. And even Emma's dad tells Norman, like, oh, once you get past the guts and the blood and everything, it's really like a masterpiece. It's really art, and that's really gonna get into Norman's head, and of course he's gonna become this killer. So it's all pointing to that, and this is just another thing that's kind of assuring that basically. And even Emma's dad basically says to Norman, come by and I'll show you how to do it, and you can do it too. So obviously Norman's gonna go with his word and actually go and learn how to do taxidermy. That's a little bit later though. We actually see a little thing in the paper that says the bypass construction to start in July. So of course this bypass is gonna be starting, like all this construction that's basically gonna make the Bates Motel basically off the map, because no one's going to be able to go through there, so there's going to be no traffic at all. So it's really going to, harm their business. And of course, Norma's going to actually try to do something to kind of, fix that, but it backfires on her, but we'll get to that in a minute. We go to Dylan, Norman's actually brother, and Dylan has to make an overnight trip to get trimmers for his, boss with his, little weed farm there, so he actually has to go make an overnight trip. And we don't really know what's going to happen, but yeah, something does happen, obviously. Norman's at school at this point, and the teacher's, watching Norman. It's kind of creepy. She's just kind of, looking out the classroom, hello, Norman. This is really creepy. And basically, Norman kind of freaks out and kind of, makes her angry and kind of pushes her away. So, of course, she's upset about that, and she actually calls the Bates' house to talk to Norma, but again, we'll get to that in a minute. He even screams, I don't care, right at the teacher. It was really awkward, but then we go back to the weird guy at the Bates Motel that's in room number 9 that we found out from last week. And I'm pretty sure his name's Jake, but I'm just going to call him the weird guy because the weird guy's a way better name. And it fits him better. Jake or weird guy? Weird guy. He's a weird guy. He's there, and he's, talking to Norma about, you never know with the people around here, Keith and the sex trade, and, you just know about Shelby, he died here. You never know what's going to happen. You can't trust anyone. And, it's really creepy because he's bringing all this stuff up. And, of course, Norma gets all, frightened and just leaves right away. And, yeah, it's just, that guy's just really creepy, and you can tell he's up to something. But we don't know what. And we're assuming that he's the head of the sex slave thing, and it's pretty much guaranteed at this point that he is, because he really hints it in this episode that he basically is. Then Norma, with this bypass construction stuff, this is what she tries to kind of fix it. She goes and sees Sheriff Romero, and she basically says, I know that there's no one told me about the bypass, but I know there's a seat open in the city council decision-making committee, so can you get me onto that? And basically Sheriff Romero basically says, I'm not your friend, I don't know you, I don't owe you anything, get out of here or I'll burn you to the ground. And he was really serious too, and Norman's like, well, what happened with us, you covered me, and he was just like, no, okay, get out of here, I don't owe you anything. He was really angry, and maybe he's a part of all this, Keith and Shelby there. Maybe he was a part of it. We don't really know. Maybe he's just covering his own tracks. We really don't know. But yeah, he was just crazy. And then of course the call goes, and Norma finds a phone call on the answering machine that the school wants to talk to her. So we found out that Norman's gonna actually be suspended for 3 days. And you know, Norman and Norma, it's a mouthful right there. I'm gonna mess up their names. Like, I'm gonna say Norman's blah blah blah. I'm just gonna apologize in advance for that. But anyway, yeah, he's gonna be suspended for 3 days, Norman. And what is he gonna do on those 3 days where he has nothing to do? Maybe some killing? I don't know. The teachers and the principal there even tells Norma that, you know, your son has like a bit of emotional instability. I think you should speak to the school psychologist. And basically, right at this point, Norma says, you know what, I'd rather have him see a private psychologist. So I think she was just like trying to postpone it as much as she could. But he actually is going to see a psychologist, and it's kind of interesting what happens there. But we'll get to that later. Then we go to Dylan, and the guy that's working for Dylan at this point, even though he's much older than him, you know, there's the guy underneath Dylan. He's much older, but, you know, he has to follow Dylan's orders. They're in a bar, and they're just drinking, and the older guy kind of just, like, goes crazy and starts fighting Dylan because, you know, oh, like, what do you know? You're so young, blah, 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 and they fight. But they kind of, like, just make up after. And he basically just says, you know, like, why don't you quit if you just hate your job? And he says, no, you can't quit from this job. They can fire you, but you don't want that. So we can obviously see that there's going to be no way out of this, and Dylan's kind of stuck in it now. So yeah, you know, what is he going to do? We don't really know. And we also find out that there is someone that is above Gil, and Gil's the guy that Dylan's working for at this point with, like, the, you know, the weed farm thing that he's doing, and making all this money on. There's someone above him. We don't know who it is because he just said, yeah, there's someone above him. But I'm speculating that it's probably the weird guy, Jack, in the Bates Motel, because obviously he's running the whole thing, so maybe he's ahead of him. I don't know. I'm just making a guess, but that's what seems the most logical to me. Then Norma brings Norman to Emma's dad, and, you know, they're starting the taxidermy thing with the dog. And Norma kind of talks to Emma's dad and says, okay, you know what, I don't really want him to do taxidermy. I don't want him labeled as a freak, and he's already like an unusual boy. So, and, you know, it's kind of weird because, like, Emma's dad's like, well, oh, taxidermy's weird, like, what are you calling me, you know, like that. It's kind of funny. It's like just an awkward situation. But then they kind of just agree, just let him do it, because really, what could go wrong? Well, a lot could go wrong, and it does, because, come on, this is Bates Motel. Nothing normal is going to happen here. So he's going to do taxidermy, and again, I love how they really connected it with Psycho at this point, and even the bird that he, you know, there was one part in the episode where a bird, like, he has like a bird in his hand, really hints to Psycho, so I really like how they're really connecting the dots here, because if it were, you know, okay, of course Bates Motel, it's directly linked to Psycho because of Norman Bates, but I mean, I would be really angry if they didn't do these little hints, because it's really cool for the fans that know, and even for the fans that don't know, it doesn't really alter anything, so it's really cool when they do that for those fans that know, because it's just like an extra, like, Easter egg. So I really appreciate when they do that, and it just puts another level of depth in the whole thing, so it makes, you know, it's really awesome, it makes me happy. Then Dylan, on his way to get these trimmers for his boss, picks up a bunch of, like, people on the side of the road, basically hippies, and they're all in the back, and so yeah, he's kind of running errands at this point. But then Norma follows the weird guy in a car. The weird guy was in a car just driving away. Norma follows him, and they stop at the docks where the boats are. And the weird guy gets out of his car and he starts looking around in the boats, obviously for the girl that Officer Shelby had hidden in the boats. He's obviously looking for that, because basically he's like, Shelby was working for him. Like, not working, but he probably bought off him and everything, so he knew who Shelby was and what he was doing, so he's obviously looking for her, because if Shelby's dead, where's the girl, right? So that's probably what he's doing. And Norma's kind of just, like, snooping around, and then the weird guy just confronts her right away. He's like, you know, what do you think you're doing here, Norma? I think you're following me, and I think you know what I'm looking for. Where did you hide it? And Norma's like, I don't know, and she just basically runs away. And it's just like, oh, okay. And, you know, the weird guy's like, he really knows what's going on now, and obviously he knows that Norma was involved with Shelby at this point too. So he kind of assumes that, okay, I think she knows what happened and she was a part of this. So obviously he's gonna make a move, and he does at the end. It was pretty sweet, but let's move away from that because there's still a little bit more episode to talk about. Norman and Norma talk to a psychologist, and Norma basically practically talks and like finishes what Norman's about to say, and it's like Norman, it's like he doesn't even know what to say. It's like he's a puppet, and Norma is like the puppeteer. Like the psychologist asks them, and it's like a group one, so it's Norma and Norman at the same time talking to the psychologist, and he says, what do you feel like? How do you feel about your dad passing away? And he's like, well, my dad, and then just Norma comes in and is like, oh, you're really sad. He's like, yeah, I'm really sad. Like, it's like he's just talking for him. We can see that she really wants to be in control. Then the psychologist talks to Norma just privately, just by herself, and he says, maybe you should start, having sessions of your own, because you're very controlling. You're controlling Norman, like, practically the whole time. And, often people that are really controlling feel that their own lives are out of control. And of course she denies it and says a bunch of stuff, and she runs off. But we can see that, obviously, the psychologist realizes right away that, okay, there's something wrong with both of them, and it's true. But obviously he doesn't do anything because cycle still happens. But yeah. Then Norma kind of confronts the weird guy, and she basically just yells at him, like, get out of my motel, like, you don't belong here, just get out. Throws the money at him, here's your money, get out. And basically the weird guy just says right away, like, you're starting to annoy me, you shouldn't annoy me. And Norma just says, if you don't get out of here in 5 minutes, I'm calling the police, and they're gonna escort you out. So he says, okay, you want to start playing this, then I can play too. And he leaves. He finally leaves after that. So yeah, then Dylan comes back to the motel with all the people in the van, and they need somewhere to sleep, so he brought a bunch of business for Norma, so she's all happy about that. But then she goes upstairs, and this is the last scene of the episode, and she goes upstairs to change clothes, and there's a dead body in her bed of an officer, the badge is there, everything. Yeah, so, and she was like screaming. It was like an homage to The Godfather too, with the horse head in the bed. It was kind of like the same thing. It really reminded me of that. It's the first thing I thought of. But yeah, so it was a really big shock at the end. And now after this episode, there's only 2 more episodes left until the season finale. But we do know that this show got renewed for another season, so we're still good for that. Yeah, I think there's going to be like a really cool thing at the end. I really hope there's something shocking. Last 2 episodes, it's got to lead up to something crazy, and I'm sure we won't be disappointed. But overall, this was a pretty good episode. It kept me entertained, but again, not the best. Episode 6 was still really good. But other than that, I just really want to see the next episode and see what happens. And yeah, so I just want to say thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.